In the busy streets of Istanbul, where a man named Shahmir was driving to work, suddenly, his car stopped in the middle of the road. He tried everything to start it, but nothing worked. With time running out, Shahmir decided to park the car near his friend's house and take the subway to the office. He had no idea that this simple decision would change his life. As Shahmir waited at the subway station, he felt a bit strange. It had been a long time since he last took the subway. The station was crowded, and people hurried to catch their trains. But then, something caught his eye. Among the crowd, a dog was calmly standing by the platform. At first, Shahmir thought it must belong to someone. Maybe it was just a passenger's dog waiting for its owner. But to his surprise, the dog calmly walked onto the train, just like any other commuter. It hopped into the subway without a care in the world, disappearing into the train. No one seemed to notice, as if seeing a dog on the subway was an everyday occurrence. Shahmir couldn't help but wonder, what was this dog doing here? Was it lost, or had it been left behind? This strange sight was only the beginning of a mystery Shahmir was about to uncover. Shahmir tried to follow the dog, but by the time the train reached his stop, the dog was nowhere to be seen. The rest of the day went by, but the dog stayed on his mind. Who was it? Why was it traveling alone on the subway? His curiosity grew stronger with each passing hour. He couldn't shake the feeling that something wasn't right. Determined to find answers, he decided to take the subway again the next day. The next morning, Shahmir arrived at the station early, hoping to catch a glimpse of the dog. To his surprise, the dog was there again, standing patiently on the platform. It was just like the day before, calm, collected, and waiting for the train. Shahmir watched closely as the dog boarded the train all alone, just as it had done the day before. No owner in sight. It was as though the dog was a regular commuter, moving through the city without anyone noticing. Every day, Shahmir saw the dog at different stations, always on its own, always boarding the train with the same ease. Sometimes, he even spotted the dog on the ferry, riding along like it was just another passenger. It was like the dog had a secret life, something no one knew about. Shahmir couldn't help but wonder, where was it going? Why was it always alone? What was the dog's story? One day, Shahmir saw something that broke his heart. A group of people was pushing the dog away, treating it as if it didn't matter. They shoved the poor animal off the train, and it fell onto the cold concrete floor. The dog was confused, moving in circles, looking for someone to help. But no one cared. The sight of it left Shahmir feeling helpless, but he knew he couldn't just stand there. Determined to help, Shahmir went to a nearby store and bought some dog food. He wanted to make sure the dog wasn't left hungry. When he returned to the subway station, he waited for the dog to appear. After some time, the dog showed up, a little dirtier than before, but still the same brown-furred friend Shahmir had seen countless times. Shahmir knew he couldn't let the dog stay alone on the streets. He couldn't do it alone, so he called the authorities. He explained everything he had witnessed and asked for their help. The authorities were just as intrigued as Shahmir. They didn't know much about the dog either, but they promised to look into it. Shahmir felt a small sense of hope. He knew this was only the beginning of helping the dog find a better life. The authorities referred Shahmir to a local animal shelter, where the staff were just as shocked as he was when they heard about the dog. They first thought they could simply catch the dog and find it a new home, but there was much more to this story than they realized. Instead of acting quickly, the staff decided to take a different approach. They decided to follow the dog for a whole day to uncover the mystery behind its unusual travels. One of the shelter employees volunteered to track the dog, and what they discovered was amazing. The dog's name was Boji. Although he was a stray, Boji wasn't just wandering around aimlessly. He had become something of a legend in Istanbul. People in the city had started noticing him and sharing stories about his strange routine. Boji had become famous for his daily travels. He was often spotted riding the subway, and sometimes he even took the ferry across the Bosphorus. It was clear that Boji wasn't just any stray dog. He was smart, and he knew the city's transport system better than most people. The shelter staff were stunned to learn how clever Boji had become. He knew the rules of public transport. He knew exactly when to board the train, where to sit, and even how to make way for passengers. It was as if Boji had learned the subway system like a regular commuter. Everyone was amazed by his skills. Boji was examined by the shelter, and it was confirmed that he had already passed all health checks and had been spayed. He was a healthy dog, and he seemed to have no trouble traveling the city on his own. It was clear that he had once had an owner, but somewhere along the way, Boji had become a stray. Now, he was living his own adventure, traveling through Istanbul on public transport every day, finding food and love from the many people who noticed him. As the days passed, Boji's fame continued to grow. People began taking pictures of him, sharing stories about his adventures on social media. He became an online sensation, with hundreds of thousands of followers tracking his every move. People were fascinated by Boji's ability to navigate the city. They even started tracking him using social media so they could catch a glimpse of the dog who had become a symbol of freedom and independence. Chris McGrath, a Getty Images photographer, heard about Boji and decided to travel to Istanbul to see him for himself. He was amazed by what he found. Boji was everything the stories had promised and more. He traveled up to 20 miles a day on the subway, hopping from train to train, ferry to ferry. Chris followed Boji for a day, documenting his every move. He couldn't believe how well Boji knew the city. It was as if the dog had a purpose, a goal that no one could understand. Alvin Errol, the head of customer care at Metro Istanbul, also marveled at Boji's behavior. He was impressed by how well the dog knew the subway system. "It was really amazing," he said. "The dog knew exactly where to go, as if he had a goal and knew the way." But it wasn't just Boji's ability to navigate the city that amazed people. It was his friendly, calm personality. Boji quickly became a beloved figure in Istanbul. Every day he traveled with commuters on the subway, riding from train to train and ferry to ferry, all while greeting everyone he met with a wag of his tail. He was kind and gentle, bringing smiles to the people who saw him. Soon, passengers were taking photos and sharing stories about Boji, making him an internet sensation. Boji wasn't just a curious sight. He became a symbol of kindness, showing the strong bond between people and animals in the city. Istanbul's programs for stray animals helped Boji survive on the streets. The city provided food, care, and even a safe place for stray animals, including Boji. He knew where to find food and water, and people were always there to help him. As Boji's popularity grew, city officials took extra steps to keep him safe. They set up a small kennel at one of the subway stations where he could rest during his travels. They also put up flyers to tell people about Boji, explaining who he was and how to treat him kindly. Boji became more than just a stray dog. He was a symbol of how the people of Istanbul care for their animals, and for Shahmir, the man who first noticed him, helping to solve the mystery of the traveling dog, made him feel proud to be part of Boji's story. So, that's all for today. What are your thoughts about this story? Tell us in the comments section below, and if you like this, make sure to like and subscribe. Your support means so much to us. Until then, take care and thanks for watching.